Welcome to AP Breakdown. We're your hosts, Sahasra Wathula
and Rahi Patel.
Today we're going to be talking about AP US history with the APUSH teacher at Athens, Mr. Saeed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saeed, for being on our podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, AP Breakdown.
So the first question is, what is APUSH?
Well, APUSH is one of our advanced placement courses offered here at Athens that obviously, much like our other AP courses, offer you a college credit upon successful completion of the AP exam. And AP US history is just that. It is the origin of American history, starting from 1492, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, all the way to present. So it's really more or less a survey of history. You don't really go super in-depth on content, per se, but you get a good brush of everything that has happened over the course of our 250 plus some history here as a country. So I enjoy teaching the class a whole lot. I enjoy our sophomores in particular, and I look forward to a great year teaching these sections and doing a great job for our students.
The next question we have for you today is, on a scale of 1 through 5, what would you rate this class difficulty?
Yeah, so, I think most people have brought this up, and again, just kind of an opinion, but APUSH is up there in terms of difficulty, especially within the social studies department, I would say. As a social studies AP class, I would argue is probably the hardest one. I'd probably rank it a 5. In the overall scope of all the AP classes offered here at Athens, I'd probably give it a 4. It's one of those classes where it's helpful, as Ms. Syme mentioned, to have AP Geo as a freshman and have that experience build up into sophomore year, but it truly is one of those classes where you're taking a college class as you would at 18, 19 years old, and taking that as a sophomore in high school for the most part. So it has its own unique set of challenges there.
So do you have any tips for students who want to study beforehand before they take this course?
Take advantage of the wide litany of resources that we have available. Know what's going to be on the exam. Be organized. Much like with AP Geo, APUSH, we try to make the course super organized. We don't try to, there's no tricks, there's no curveballs. We tell you what's on the exam, and we practice it throughout the year. So being intentional with your practice, studying the things you don't know, being aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are in terms of your academics, and seeking help and being open and honest about where you need to go in terms of success, I think is a fundamental skill you need, not only in my class, but really in all our classes, those specific study habits that serve you well in all courses.
Is there any resources that kids can utilize?
So I am the resource guy. My issue is I might have too many resources for APUSH. It kind of can overwhelm students. So, we have the Heimler videos. We have a litany of aspects that we could use from Khan Academy. I know you mentioned Note. That was the one I helped discover several weeks ago. Quizlet, Gimkit. The resources are out there, but you have to customize them for what your learning preferences are. And again, like Ms. Syme said, you got to be a little bit careful with ensuring it's not bad quality. You have to see if it's good quality. And one thing that I try to do is I want to pick the resources that are the best and the most reliable, curate them, have them available for the students as it pertains to any part of the exam, whether it's writing or vocab. And to the degree that we can make review fun, make review not necessarily easy, but easy to access and efficient for our students. That's kind of what my goal is. So studying today and studying tomorrow, and focusing not so much on studying one day, not studying on January 22nd before the midterm, or studying on May 7th before the exam, but really the class itself is an aspect of studying every single day, building on top of one another, each date, each theme in history, and tracing that change over time over the last 200 years. That's really what studying is. It's a full comprehensive experience, not just studying 1 or 2 days before a test or something like that.
Before I took this class, I watched the Heimler videos.
Oh, good.
And it really helped me to understand the content and what's going to be taught throughout the year.
I love Stephen Heimler. He used to be a former history teacher until he discovered the ability to use social media to make a lot of money. So the man has millions of subscribers, and he started pretty humbly, but ironically enough, as you know, COVID is where he started to grow in popularity because of online schooling. So Heimler is probably the most famous history teacher in the country, I'd imagine, given his status.
So, what advice would you give to students before they take APUSH? Like, what should they expect when they're taking this class?
Yeah, expect to have challenges, especially early in the year. And again, I've said this to my sophomores, and I know Miss Simon said the same thing to our freshmen. And, really from September to November, it's like, wow, okay, this might not be what I necessarily signed up for. This is not just some regular history class. This is an SAT history class, as I told our students, the way these assessments are designed and the timer and all that stuff. In many ways, these AP classes you take freshman and sophomore years really do, in a way, prepare you for the SAT. And I kind of use that as a motivational thing. Like, hey, would you rather have a little bit of struggle in your life now, or would you rather wait till freshman year of high school when all of a sudden, whoa, this is... So again, these classes, they're tough, they're challenging, but my advice coming into the class is I lay those expectations on day one, not to scare anybody, not to tell them they can't do it, but to tell them, hey, this is where we're going. There's going to be bumps along the road, and I'm going to help you at an appropriate level so you can eventually do this work on your own.
Do you think a B in a normal class is better than do you think a B in an AP class is better than a A in a normal class?
Oh, totally. And colleges recognize that too. There's a reason why we have these weighted grades for these AP classes because, if you're getting, I know grade inflation is an issue in college and in high school, but, there's a reason why a solid B in an AP class is technically a 4.0 and an A is a 5.0 because we're supposed to be teaching and grading like it is like a relatively difficult college class. I think we say college class, but the way APUSH is taught, it's almost university level. It's pretty hard, almost a bit too much in a way. But yeah, it's one of those things where I tell all my students in AP classes that are so focused on their GPA that a B here and there is not going to make any difference when you're getting admitted into college. They want to see your grit. They want to see how you respond to adversity that you can talk about in like your personal essays, for instance. And that, having all A's all 4 years, does that show the character of who you are? No, it's how you respond to struggles and how you deal with and work with and collaborate with other people. Those are the things that, college classes are looking for. So my friends in the podcast, my friends listening, any students here, show yourself some grace and understand that it's not about the A, it's about what you learned and the study habits and the character you built up in the process as being here for the last, being here for 4 years of high school.
What's your favorite unit in APUSH?
My favorite unit in APUSH is probably going to be Unit 6, where we talk about like the robber barons, like big businessmen like Carnegie, Rockefeller, because much like I like to mention, current events, life imitates art, and we have a lot of tech billionaires and other figures, billionaires right now that are in the news, and they remind me a lot of the figures we talk about. These billionaires and et cetera. Are they heroes? Are they villains? Did they contribute to society? Did they take away too much? So just those parallels with the rise of capitalism, the rise of what America's known for the most, it's big business and our strong economy. Playing parallels with that with today it's one of my favorite things to do, and to bring in current events in general where I can, to make those connections and to help our students remember, oh, this thing in 1800s reminds me of this today. All of our units do that, but I feel like Unit 6 with big city life, labor unions, big business, et cetera, really reminds me of some of the favorite things that students are going to learn the whole year in period 6.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be on the AP test?
Yeah, so much like any of these AP exams, we have multiple choice. And for the most part, they're SAT style, so you read a passage. You have 4 answer choices in APUSH, not 5, so I don't know why they made that difference there between a GEO and an APUSH. So pretty difficult multiple choice questions with the timer, of course, that we practice in class all year. And of course, the latter half of the exam are the essays, the written sections of the exam. A good history learner, they can memorize all the facts they want, right? We have all the technology to memorize and look up anything about dates. But really, I think the thing that is most appropriate about APUSH, that is closest to what you do in college, is really the writing. Writing persuasive essays, analyzing primary sources. I feel like that's the thing about APUSH that I think our students excel the most with, and I excel the most with teaching because you have to teach students how to become not only writers but history writers, and you can't really do that through multiple choice. And so I actually more or less appreciate the writing component of this class and having students become the historians. And so while this might be an exam or a test prep kind of environment, that writing piece is still important in general to generate arguments, to respond to them, to refute them. And APUSH does a really good job overall of doing that.
What is probably the thing you see students struggle with the most in this course, or what do you think is the hardest for students in this course?
Yeah, it's the timer. It is the time test of standardized test. And I know our students have these same concerns when it pertains to the PSAT or the actual SAT junior year. I feel like in the real world, we have deadlines, et cetera, but if I want to take 2 or 3 hours working on one thing for school, there's not a clock usually ticking for me to have a deadline to turn something in like that. And let alone due dates for school, for these exams, when the time is up, the time is up. And can I write this essay in 60 minutes? Can I answer all of these questions in 50 minutes? And that's something our students struggle with greatly that I'm very cognizant of addressing is, I know you know the content, I know you know this stuff, and if you took all the time in the world, which I wish you had time for, you'd do great. So let's put this timer in place now. Let's play the game of the standardized test while still learning history. And in that way, it kind of everybody wins at the end of the day.
I agree. The timer is definitely one of the hardest parts about APUSH. Mostly all AP classes have a timer.
And I feel for you guys.
What majors do you think this class would be good for?
Now you mean like majors in college?
Yeah.
So APUSH, pre-law, I think that's going to be the most common one. Future lawyers tend to see some applicability between this, Supreme Court cases, foundational knowledge of how our government and politics work. And of course, there's always future teachers of social studies, history majors, social studies majors. But anything involving the liberal arts, English is, ELA and in this class are highly aligned with the writing piece, but I'd say the most common is anything related to law. Anybody that wants to be a lawyer, please take our, APUSH courses, our AP Gov, AP Comparative Gov. We also offer, the history of criminal law as an elective here at Athens. So I feel like we really take care of the pre-law aspect of that potential career well here within our department.
So tying back to your AP exam, you said there's a couple multiple choice stimulus questions and then SAQs, LEQs, and DBQs.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, SAQ, there's so many acronyms, I know. SAQ stands for short answer questions, pretty self-explanatory. Answer a historical prompt with a couple sentences, you're good to go. An LAQ stands for long essay question, where you get a prompt and you have to generate a mid to moderate sized essay all on your own with an introduction, thesis, and full-on persuasive body paragraphs, which is, that can be tricky in its own right. And then I think what APUSH is probably the most famous for is the DBQ, a phrase I think our students have learned a little bit through middle school and high school, which stands for document-based question. And to be able to write a persuasive essay based on a prompt and utilizing documents to make that persuasive argument, utilizing a document 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, to elaborate on a position or a claim, and to really understand these documents to fit the argument you're making. It's challenging, but students usually walk away from APUSH saying, the DBQ, ironically enough, I thought was going to be the hardest thing, ended up being the easiest thing because we looked at documents the entire year. But yeah, lots of acronyms in APUSH between MCQ, LAQ, SAQ, and DBQ. But don't be overwhelmed. We have the entire year, as we know, almost the entire year to practice these things and to get ready for that May exam.
There's a lot of dates and vocab involved in APUSH.
Yeah.
Is that really important?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Individual dates are important, but really I think what's key is knowing how things change over time as a result of those dates. We signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776, but what do those rights look like for women when they signed the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848? Timelines are important. We develop timelines in class. We develop the skills to learn how to write. And yes, dates are important, but more or less knowing generally when things are taking place and what happens before certain things take place, I think is really more important than just knowing actual dates. But yes, chronology, timeline, and knowing one's vocab, I think is really an important aspect of this class.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
Said,
you.
for being on our podcast.
We hope you learn more about APUS history and plan on taking it.
Have a great day.